So, finally have had some time to sit down and record um, more details, and I'm going to do an audio version and a pic and video montage of the trip that Mom and I went up to Alberta. So, some of you know that I did quite a bit of traveling for work at my technology trainer job that I had a number of years ago. And that job took me up to Alberta, Canada. So if you don't know where Alberta is, it's just north of Montana in the US. I refer to Alberta jokingly as the Texas of Canada up there. It's an amazing place. It is Canadian, clearly, but it has, when I think of it like Texas, there's a huge presence of oil and gas. It's a huge part of their economy up there. It's huge, wide open spaces. But as you'll see through the pictures, as Mom and I got to see up there, and one of the reasons that I wanted to take her up there, we're both from South Georgia. We're accustomed to the heat and humidity that we have here in Georgia. But being from South Georgia, we don't get to see the mountains, and we don't get the cold weather, obviously, that they get up in Alberta, through their winter season. So I wanted to do that now that Mom is retired and take her up to Alberta. And as expected, it was an amazing trip. Thankfully, COVID cooperated. A lot of folks, asked me when I told them that, we were going up to Canada, there's like, well, it reopened, and yes, it did. So, now that Canada did a better job of handling coronavirus, obviously then the U.S. is continuing to struggle with. Canada made the decision to open up their borders to international travelers. And so Mom and I, she finally, sold her home this week. And before we did that, we did the COVID test together down in Albany. Came back negative. Everything was fine. And I ended up changing the flights to go out on Air Canada from Atlanta to Toronto, and the connection there out to Calgary. And I ended up redeeming points for her. They were actually United points. It was a very good redemption option for business class. And then several of you know that I, do travel and all that on the side. I ended up booking a cash ticket on Air Canada, and then bidded for a cash upgrade to business class to, join Mom in business class on both the Atlanta and Toronto legs through Toronto. Now, most of that was fine and great. The service was amazing, well fed, drinks and everything. The lounge access in Toronto, which Air Canada had adapted, for COVID. I've got some pictures and how that service went down, but very upscale service. The only issue, unfortunately, is that Air Canada lost Mom's bag. I don't think it actually made it on the CRJ 900 here in Atlanta. We were actually delayed a little bit leaving Atlanta. They were trying to, I believe, fit all the bags on the plane, but apparently when we got to Toronto, us, along with several other passengers on the plane, did not have bags to claim. And so we filed the claim once we got to Calgary, and once we got out to Canmore, which is one of the resort areas near Banff in Alberta, Air Canada did finally bring Mom's bag, but Mom likes to shop. She did get a little shopping excursion on Air Canada's dime, and we're presently waiting on that reimbursement. It's probably going to be a solid month or two because, due to staffing and, COVID and all the other drama going on, it's probably going to be a while. But, the claim has been submitted, and we'll get that in due turn. But otherwise, the trip was amazing. Mom, I wanted to impress her, and she was impressed. It was a Dreamliner from Toronto to Calgary. I've got pictures of the service, of the catering, and everything here. As expected, and I did want to experience it for myself because I had not had a chance to do that. And, as expected, it was a very nice experience, other than just the bag. But as Canadians are very nice, they did all the best they could, and, did bring Mom's bag out to the Falcon Crest Lodge in Canmore. So any of you that may be fans from the 80s, we let me back up a second. We did stay one night at a Hilton Tapestry property, the Westley. It was a beautiful boutique hotel there in Calgary. The breakfast was amazing. It's kind of almost like a Tex-Mex style breakfast that was included. I still have my status with Hilton, and I had some points to burn, so there wasn't much cost there at all. And the staff was amazing, very nice. We also found out that there are actually fewer people wearing masks in Alberta than the U.S. because, they were much more heavily locked down up there than we were in the States, and much more comfortable, with everything going on. So we stayed there the one night because we did get in a little bit later, and but it was a very nice stay. And then I went to pick up the rental car. So the other drama with this trip was when COVID hit, the rental car companies sold all the rental cars because they didn't know what in the world was going to happen, understandably. And so I did find a rental car for a decent rate at the Enterprise location in downtown Calgary. So I go to pick it up, and the gentleman said, "Well, we have a pickup truck." I said, "Okay, let me take a look at it," and ended up taking him up on it. It was an extended cab Ford F-150. We were able to put the bags in the back. It was a bit of a bouncy ride, but we survived, and the gas bill was a little bit higher, but everything is a pretty decent deal on it. And so off we went, to take Mom shopping, for some extra clothes. Obviously, she didn't have her bag. And on our way out to Canmore to the Falcon Crest Lodge. Now, the game plan before this, I was trying to use my points for the Marriott has a lodge in Kanaskas, and I'm going to share this audio with the Airline Pilot Guy podcast, because you guys had actually covered this story before we went up there. I ended up moving away from that because we did not get the upgrade there that I was hoping for with my status with Marriott. So there was a lodge that I found. It is the Falcon Crest Lodge in Canmore. And so, the caddy and me wanted to experience, because of the soap opera back from the 80s, Falcon Crest. But it's an amazing place. It actually has shared ownership. You can buy or do like a timeshare at the Falcon Crest Lodge if you are so inclined or interested. And so we ended up finding it on Airbnb. Very nice family there. Bernie and Melissa owned that 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit with an amazing view of the Canadian Rockies. And so I've got some pictures here, and, they have cable there. They have an Apple TV. Mom and I had separate beds, separate bathrooms. There was a full kitchenette, washer, dryer. We didn't grill out there, but, we had the grill. It was an amazing experience. And then we were off to go see the 2 Fairmont properties. So if you don't know what the Fairmont is in Canada, the Fairmont is basically the Ritz-Carlton of Canada, for lack of a better term, for us Americans that are listening to this. And what the Canadian Railroad did back in the late 1800s is they built these huge, gorgeous, basically resorts, out in rural Canada along the railroad, trails. And they're still there. The Fairmont runs them. There's one in Banff, and there's one in Lake Louise. And so we saw the one in Banff. You got the pictures here. And Mom, of course, enjoyed it, loved it. And then the next day we went a little bit further north, just north of Banff, to Lake Louise. There's also a ski lift area that, of course, is popular during the winter months. But during the summer months, when we went, you can just simply ride the ski lift, in the gondola up to the top. top, and then see all that. So the pictures here, there's just a beautiful picture window that overlooks Lake Louise, and yes, that water is that blue. The views are just amazing. People kayaking. It's part of the provincial national parks up there. If you are so inclined, they also do afternoon tea, which is part of the British influence on Canada that's still there, right? So of course I knew that Mom would just totally enjoy the trip, which she did. You can also see, from some of these pictures when you're on top of the mountain over at Lake Louise at the ski resort. We were looking down on, Lake Louise. There was actually kind of some fog or clouds there, so you couldn't really see the lake. And then there's some pictures here of the mountain peaks, but that is actually close to, 12,000 foot mountain peak that is on top of, the Lake Louise is actually at the bottom of. There's a glacier there, but you couldn't quite grasp, because of the clouds there, really what you were actually looking at. So there's a picture there from the top of the mountain area, what you see there. So then at the bottom there, we had more drinks and cocktails. We got to see the chateau that is at Lake Louise, and it's just as expected. Mom thoroughly enjoyed it, and we had an amazing time. So then we went back in. Because of the rental car, I was not certain that I would be able to keep the rental car longer than the 2 days that I had it reserved. In hindsight, I would have been able to, but it is what it is. But we went back into Calgary, stayed 2 more nights in the city, and then came on back. I had WestJet, who is Delta's partner, has the nonstop from Calgary back to Atlanta. So we went to, I should have, in hindsight, told the taxi driver from, the Westin back to Calgary to drop us off at international departures. He dropped us off at domestic. So we had a bit of a sprint, but we had plenty of time that morning to catch the flight. And in hindsight, we had even more time. But we had priority access because I still have my medallion status with Delta. And so we didn't have quite as long a wait, but WestJet, I believe, needs to hire literally hundreds more people for ground staff and others because, with COVID, with the layoffs, they are struggling like everybody else to hire people. And so WestJet had a mass delay of an hour or two for all the flights, including ours. So, and a lot of folks that were on our flight, it was full. We're connecting in Atlanta. The lady I was sitting next to was headed on up to Asheville. She was from Saskatchewan, and an artist, and headed up to Asheville for an art event. So that they were kind of stressing, but I showed her. I said, welcome to Atlanta. There was one more flight. It looked like there were seats up, and I think she was able to make it. It was just late. So, and we also the other thing about COVID. So the other thing, the U.S., if you were flying internationally, you do have to test negative in the foreign country. So what the airlines are doing is you can buy a kit that's a rapid test, and then buy basically like a proctor service, and they watch you via webcam take the test, and then you print out, the test to present to the airline. So that was taking even more time at the airport for everybody flying internationally for, WestJet to confirm that you had the test, to arrive and all that. So, we survived. You made it. COVID cooperated. Mom had an amazing visit. We were able to, use points for a lot of the trip, and here we are. So as promised, put this all together into, the audio podcast, and then I'll also, compile this together for YouTube. And glad to answer any questions, but wanted to share the trip with everybody. Thanks.